Hi guys, and welcome back to United View and another episode of The Lowe View. I just want to say a special thank you to everyone that watched the pilot episode of The Lowe View just before the World Cup, and for all the feedback and the comments from the community. Really appreciate it. And of course, we're back with another episode. Today's episode is a championship special of The Lowe View, where we're going to be looking at Manchester United loanees who are currently on loan in the championship. Of course, the championship resumed earlier than other competitive leagues. They started after the World Cup, actually in the first week of December, in comparison to everyone else who started in the end of December or January. So I think it's best that we look at our academy graduates, we look at how they're doing in the championship. And I recently did a poll on Twitter, well actually not recently, last month I did a poll on Twitter asking the viewers who they wanted to see a breakdown on in terms of Ahmad Diallo and Ethan Laird, and people asked for a breakdown of Ahmad Diallo's loan spell at Sunderland. So we're going to give that to you guys too. So I really hope you guys enjoy the episode. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you become a member. Make sure you get involved in the chat down below, and let us know how you think Manchester United loanees are getting on at the moment. We're going to start actually with just a congratulations to Shola Apay, who's actually gone out on loan to Bolton Wanderers last week, and he's already made 2 appearances for them in substitute performances. It's not been, 10 goals and 10 assists in 2 games, but he's definitely a young academy graduate that definitely needs some playing time, that has struggled to actually get onto the bench for Erik ten Hag's idea at Manchester United. And I really do feel like this loan spell will do him right. He's only 18 years old, he plays on the right wing, but we've seen him sometimes even in the academy playing in that little central role. So I really think that at Bolton Wanderers he'll have the opportunity to grow into his football career in senior football as an 18-year-old kid. So I really wish him the best of luck. Bolton Wanderers are not in the Championship, they're actually in League One. So he is one of the few players that are not in Championship football, and he's actually in League One. So just congratulations to him. Before we actually get into the episode today, I'm going to do a quick discussion point on Erik ten Hag's recent comments about a few Manchester United players that could go out on loan as we approach the end of the transfer window. Of course, there's been talk about Anthony Elanga to Borussia Dortmund. There's been talks about Charlie Savage going to Forest Green Rovers, who are also in League One. And there's also been discussions about whether Facundo Pellistri could go out on loan. But in his recent press conference, Erik ten Hag did make it clear that Facundo Pellistri's involvement in the 3-0 win over Nottingham Forest in the Carabao Cup is proof that he's here to stay. He's not going out on loan. He's going to fight for that right-hand spot. But I wonder what that means for other players such as, Anthony Elanga, such as Brandon Williams, such as Charlie Savage, such as McNeil, such as Zidane Iqbal, players that are not really getting much playing time. I really wonder if they might actually join the Loan View analysis here one day, where we'll be breaking down their loan spells if they head out on loan. So that's just a quick pointer for anyone that's not been following. Without further ado, we're going to go into it. Alvaro Fernandez, obviously a lot of people are familiar with the 21-year-old left-back who's currently on loan at Preston North End, who are in the Championship. It's an interesting one for me because, he's been performing well for them. He's a starting player. He plays quite often. If he does not start, then he normally comes on as a substitute, and he does make a difference because Preston North play with a back 3, and he plays actually as a left wing back, if you want to call it. So he goes forward a lot, but he comes back to defend a lot. For me, it's more about his future at Manchester United. If Manchester United are going to ever play a back 3, would he be an option? With Tyrell Malacia and Luke Shaw, would he be happy being 3rd in the pecking order? I'm not too sure about that. Let me know what you guys think, if he would be okay with that, especially when he's getting regular playing time at Preston North End. And I think that's a key part for academy players and just young players in general, to get senior playing football when they're out on loan, to get the experience, to develop the technicality, but also the physicality, which is one thing that Erik ten Hag has spoken about quite often when he talks about sending players on loan. And I'm going to come into that when we talk about Ethan Laird and Ahmad Diallo. So Alvaro Fernandez, he's currently, like I said, at Preston North. He's got 2 assists in the Championships, 4 assists in all competitions, that's including the FA Cup. And he played recently against Ethan Laird in QPR's 1-0 win over Preston North End. So it was nice to see 2 Manchester United academy players on loan going head-to-head whilst they're actually performing well in the Championship. And next, we're going to head on to Hannibal Mesbah. The 20-year-old is currently playing at Birmingham City. He's playing... it's actually quite interesting because he plays in a cam/attacking midfielder role. He plays in that central midfield role. He plays in quite a few alternative positions. At Manchester United, we saw one impressive. I wouldn't say impressive, I would actually say one memorable cameo that he made in a loss against Liverpool. And I'm highlighting that because he now has 7 yellow cards in his appearances at Birmingham City. And Birmingham City fans, some pundits, and even the manager has mentioned his temperament. And we saw it, like I said, with the Liverpool game for Manchester United when we suffered a difficult defeat against them. But he was praised after that game for, you know, showing the anger, showing the passion, showing his temperament. But it seems that the Championship side, he's currently struggling in terms of picking up yellow cards quite consistently. I think in the last 10 games, he's picked up 3 yellow cards. And he always picks it up, it seems, you know, after the second half starts, after he's been involved in about 45, 50 minutes. Outside of that, though, he did go to the World Cup with Tunisia. He only played 10 minutes in their opening game against Denmark. But I think he's actually been impressive for Birmingham City, and I'll tell you why. Because traditionally, like I said, he plays in the central midfield role, but we've seen him in that attacking midfield role as well. He's only played 3 full 90 minutes in the Championship for them, but he started 13 out of 20 appearances, and for me it's very impressive that out of the 7 games that Birmingham City have won, Hannibal has assisted in 3 of those. So he is obviously making a difference in the side. He's fighting for a starting position, and he's recently been linked to Marseille to go out there on loan. I'm sure he might want to go back to France, but for me, is the most interesting point is, again, breaking into Erik ten Hag's team. A lot of academy players this season have had opportunities in terms of, you know, Facundo Pellistri, Alejandro Garnacho. We've seen Kobbie Mainoo getting a chance, and obviously in the past we've seen Manchester United always give opportunities to academy players. But for a player to make an impression out on loan, I think he needs to step it up a notch. I think he needs to look at the Manchester United midfield. What we currently have, you know, Fred is looking for his 12-month contract extension to be triggered. He's probably looking for a new long-term deal at Manchester United. We've got Scott McTominay, we've got Casemiro, we've got Eriksen, we've got further down in the pecking order, there's Zidane Iqbal, who I'm actually going to speak about later on. It's really interesting to see how Hannibal Mesbah continues to perform at Birmingham City, and at the age of 20 he could still have another loan spell on the cards for him next season. But I think the important thing is for him to stay fit, which he's doing pretty well, continue performing, continue fighting for a spot at Birmingham City, but also, you know, controlling that temperament in senior football, because the last thing you want is someone who's always getting a suspension every 2.5 months because they've picked up multiple yellow cards leading up to that. So I'm sure that's something that the manager's having a conversation with him. But like I said, the discussion point surrounding him is whether he has a future at Manchester United. And I know a lot of people, including himself, would want to know that. Angel Gomez left Manchester United for senior football. Ghana left for Manchester United for senior football. Will Hannibal Mesbah be the next midfielder to leave Manchester United for senior football? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And the next one is Ethan Laird. If you come down to London, he's currently playing at Queen's Park Rangers, which is his 4th loan spell. But I think the most impressive one thing for me regarding this loan spell is that it's been his most consistent. He's recently, sadly, picked up an injury against Swansea last week where he had to come off. But the manager did come out earlier today and say it's not as serious as what they thought it was. He's a player that has struggled with his loan spells in the past in terms of injuries. And one thing that I'm really impressed about is that he's cemented his position as the starting right back at QPR. QPR are doing decent in the Championship, although they've been struggling to win games of recent. At one point during the beginning of the season, they were in that little playoffs position between, you know, 3rd and 6th. At the moment, they're struggling to win games, and Ethan Laird actually has not registered an assist since October. I'm mentioning that because, of course, fullbacks in modern day football are known for going forward and providing assists, whether it's pre-assists or an actual assist registered. He's not actually registered one since October, and you know, when you look at the most consistent football that he's been having in his career out on loan, he's been only excluded from match day twice, and he starts all the time. And the main discussion point, I think, for Ethan Laird is, will he come back to Manchester United? We've got Diogo Dallo. Wan-Bissaka is currently on a resurgence, and early in the season we have been linked to a new fullback to kind of provide that depth to Diogo Dallo in case Manchester United choose to sell Wan-Bissaka. Would Ethan Laird want to come back to Manchester United to be third in the pecking order, which most likely could actually result in not much playing time? When he's playing regular football at QPR, I know the fans love him. I know the previous manager, Bill, before he left for the new Rangers job, loved him. And I know the new manager likes him too. So I do feel like Ethan Laird is impactful. I think he was a great academy prospect. To be out on his 4th loan spell at the age of 21, and this is the one that he's really been the most impressive and has been the most consistent in terms of staying fit. The only thing I worry about is injuries for him, and I really hope he does stay fit. I hope he works on that. But in terms of whether he has the ability to play senior football, we saw him in pre-season. He has the ability to play senior football, and I do think he has the ability to play under Erik ten Hag. So that would be very interesting. Erik ten Hag did speak about recently why he sent players like Ahmad Diallo and Ethan Laird out on loan, and it was just for them to develop physicality and technical ability in terms of playing senior football, which he said that players like Alejandro Garnacho already had. So that's an example of why he's actually been out on loan, and I think he might actually look at the Manchester United academy prospects that have come through Manchester United and have cemented places in the first team. And you look at it over the last 5 to 6, 7 years, and there's not many of them. So he might actually look at that and think, okay, maybe my best bet at consistent football, regular football, competitive football might be to stay at the championship level with QPR. Of course, there was talk about possibly recalling him prior to the January transfer window, but Erik ten Hag did say that he had no intention to recall any of the players that he sent out on loan, because the reason why he sent them out on loan was to develop their technical and physicality experience, and of course playing senior football. As you guys know, Manchester United just in the next, I think, 30 days have 10 games, and players of this level would definitely be appreciated on the bench. But when the manager is looking at it, thinking further into the future, you definitely think that he might have a plan for these players out on loan, and I definitely think he does. And the next one is the one and only Ahmad Diallo, who I think has been the most impressive out of all the academy players currently out on loan. We brought him in that summer 2020 window. I'm sure a lot of you guys might remember the window that we brought Facundo Pellistri, we brought Edison Cavani, we brought Donny van der Beek, and we brought Ahmad Diallo. I think it was a 37 million deal, 19 million fee, and a bunch of add-ons from Atlanta. And currently on loan, he's doing, I think he's probably the best loanee that Manchester United have out on loan at the moment. He's really developed his technical ability, but also his physicality. We've got a few clips that we're going to go through in terms of his goals and assists, but in terms of a quick breakdown of how he's playing at Sunderland, he's playing in between that little the 10 and the winger role, where he's playing in those half spaces, as people like to call it. And it's interesting because obviously he plays on the right wing, but he doesn't play there all the time. He plays around 50%. He plays there. We've seen about 21% of him playing as a striker when he's alternated, about 30% in that cam role. So you can see he's kind of alternating across the front line, and I think that shows his flexibility in terms of his ability to play in different positions in that starting roles. We see it currently with Manchester United, where Bruno Fernandez plays behind the striker, and then half-time he moves to the right-hand side. And I think Erik ten Hag might like a player like Ahmad Diallo because of his proven ability right now this season at Sunderland to play in those alternating positions. And of course, even when he plays as a right winger, he might not always have the explosive speed, but he definitely has the dribbling and technical ability to get by his man. And that's why he likes to come into those half spaces, which, like I said, we're going to look at some of his goals and his assists and see how he's doing there. One impressive thing about him, he's two-footed, so he can play with his left foot and his right foot. He can strike it with his left foot, cross it with his right foot. And I think he would definitely add a different benefit to Manchester United on that right-hand side. He has a good balance, I think, of playmaking. I think the 2 assists that he has this season does not capture completely what he's doing at Sunderland, because, like I said, there's this thing people like to call pre-assists, the pass before the pass, and he's always involved in it. He's always dragging defenders out wide if he has to. He's always dragging defenders central if he wants to create space for players. And one thing that I've really been impressed with him is how impactful he has been in whichever role he plays, whether he's playing in that cam role, whether he's playing in that right wing role. He's always providing an outlet. And one thing that Erik ten Hag mentioned about Ahmad Diallo when he sent him out on loan was that he needed to develop physicality, and there was an very impressive assist that we're going to break down shortly that showed that he's really been working on his physical experience. Ten Hag did say in a press conference earlier in the month that he was not looking to recall him because it would just be unfair on his development. And Tony Mowbray, Sunderland's manager, also agreed with that and said that it's best to let him enjoy his football that he's playing because he's playing the best football of his career. When Erik Ten Hag was asked about, the options that Manchester United have in terms of those right wings, he did mention the likes of Facundo Pellistri, but he also mentioned Ahmad Diallo. So that does make me think that maybe Ahmad Diallo is part of the plan at Manchester United for senior football in the next coming seasons. When Ole Gunnar Solskjaer brought him in summer 2020, I remember he was asked about why he brought this random kid from Atalanta that hasn't really played any senior level football, who is playing in the under-19s, and he said that this kid had all the raw talents to become a great player. And we've seen it this season when you take a player that has all these raw attributes and he's coached by a manager like Tony Mowbray and he's developed into the player that he can become, you see what you get with him. Obviously, that's his trademark celebration. We're going to look at some of his goals now, but I actually found an interesting story about his trademark celebration. I always wondered what's the story behind it. And it's a tribute to one of his old youth team members at Atalanta who died two years ago. And it's a celebration that he does. We never really saw it at Manchester United, but we've been seeing it a lot more whilst he's been at Sunderland. So this is his most recent goal against Michael Carrick's Middlesbrough. I know Michael Carrick was fond of him at Manchester United. Obviously, he also worked with him when he was coming through the academy and training more with the first team. And just watch Ahmad Diallo here. He plays the outlet pass to the midfielder who's actually gone wide. And I'm just going to pause it right there because Ahmad Diallo has quite a lot of space here. Many players, I think, in that position, I'm not sure what they would actually do, but what I'm really interested about is what Ahmad Diallo does in this position, because he can come more central, but instead he decides to provide an outlet pass to the player with the ball, and he runs into space and he drags players with him. And his ability, you will see his ability to meddle away from players that are surrounding him has become really impressive, and that just shows his awareness. Sometimes it's like he's got eyes on the back of his head, and you see it with this goal here. I'm just going to press play. He takes a little run, and this is the most interesting point because he's got one defender running out wide to him. At this point, it's a very tight angle. He's right-footed, like I said, and he's left-footed, but he chooses to alternate between both. He's got a great left foot when he comes to striking the ball. I think it's his most preferred foot to use, but he does have the ability to, like I said, pass with his right foot, cross it in, etc. In this instance, he takes a few touches, and right there, you can see that he has 3 players from Middlesbrough surrounding him, and he manages to get a shot off goal, including a player right in front of the goalkeeper. And I think this is really impressive, mainly because he had the option to continue dribbling, which would have taken him out to the touchline, and he probably might have gone out with the ball. Instead, he takes a shot, and here, just a great finish. Bottom right-hand corner, the goalkeeper was stunned. His own player was blocking him, and I really think that's a very impressive goal that he scored. This is another recent goal, which is actually one of my favourite goals, and I'm going to tell you guys why. You can see Ahmad Diallo here in this space here. He's got 3 players around him. This was against Wigan. One thing that you will see with Ahmad Diallo, and we actually see it with Wout Weghorst at Manchester United right now, is he loves 1-2 football. He loves quick pass, go, pass, go, pass, go. And I think that's great for a winger or someone playing in the 10 role. And it's been something that he's been doing quite often in Sunderland, which he could bring to Manchester United. Is not just the ability to play one-touch football, but to make the right decision of when to play one-touch football and when to run into space. Obviously, in this instance, he has 3 players around him, including his own teammate. And he sees this little space over here, not operated by anyone. The striker is keeping the 2 centre-backs occupied. And in this instance, this is just a great goal. He plays 1-2 football. And I'm just going to pause it right there because quick 1-2 football takes out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defenders or 5 players of the opposition, particularly in this Wigan game. And he just strikes the ball from there. Like I said, Ahmad Diallo, he's got a great left foot. His ability to strike the ball, we've seen it at Sunderland. He scored a penalty, which again was him dribbling into the box and actually winning the penalty, which then resulted in him taking the penalty. He scored left foot strikes. He scored right foot strikes. We haven't seen him score a header yet. But I don't think he gets into the spaces to score headers. But this particular goal against Wigan for me was actually one of my favourite goals. He just strikes the ball and he takes 5 players out out of the game so simply, so easily, just by playing one-touch football. And it's just about reading. It's about reading it, and I think he does it. Obviously, he goes on to then do his celebration. Sunderland fans going wild. But for me, the most interesting part in that goal is the ability to read the situation and decide the right thing. In that particular play, he saw that there was 3 defenders around him, including his player, and he saw a bit of space, and he thought, okay, I'm going to quickly 1-2 run into the space, take 1-2 touches, and then strike the ball with my left foot. And that was a great goal. For me, he had a man of the match performance actually in that game. I think he had like 92 out of 96 pass completion. He had, I think, 6 duels, interceptions, etc. So he's also doing his stuff on the defensive side. The next one is, for me, probably one of his best performances this season. He had a goal and assist against Hannibal Mesbah's Birmingham City. And I'm going to break down this particular one for a reason. Because in this one, I think this is his assist. He starts to play there, wins the ball back, and I'm just going to pause it right there. Ahmad Diallo is here. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 players around him, and then 2 centre-backs. As always, the striker is keeping the centre-backs occupied, and Ahmad Diallo, with his quick feet and quick passing and quick thinking, tries to figure out what to do in this instance. And his main priority in this particular play is to keep possession of the ball. His possession retention is actually great at Sunderland. It's one thing that he's also been praised for. And in this particular clip, he wriggles around using his physicality. Players that are a lot taller than him, a lot bigger than him, he's just using his muscle and physicality that he's developed in the Championship to keep possession of the ball and then play a quick pass to his player and get the assist. For me, that was all Ahmad Diallo. You know, the Sunderland player finished it, but to me that was all Ahmad Diallo, and you see it here. He drops to the floor, gets back up and plays a pass. It's all about thinking, it's all about mentality, and it's all about making the right decision, and it's one thing that he's continuously shown that he's actually able to do. And this is his goal in the same game where he won man of the match. He only played 66 minutes to make that much impact. 33 touches, 66 minutes, a goal and an assist, and they went on to win. He's one-on-one with the fullback, and in this instance, you know, most wingers, they would do what he would do too, and it's just, for me, it's all about knowing when to do it, how to do it, and the right time to do it. I'm going to press play, and you see he picks up the ball, takes about 3-4 touches, left foot cut in. How many times have we seen that from other players in the league, in the Premier League? We've seen so many other players do it. We've seen Anthony do it. We've seen, you know, Rashford do it on his right foot. And it's just another skill set that he has that shows, you know, his ability to decide when to do it and when's the right time to do it. He could have continued to dribble to the touchline, like I said, shoot with his right foot, like we've seen many times him doing at Sunderland, but instead he opted to quick cut in, use the player as a shield against the goalkeeper and to slot that into the bottom left-hand corner. Now, discussing about Ahmad Diallo, I do feel like going out on loan was the best option for him, and Erik ten Hag has spoken about that after his loan spell at Rangers, which I don't think has gone as well as his current loan spell at Sunderland. One way that you can measure a player's loan or just a player's impact is not only how much the manager likes him, but how much the fans love him. Don't get attached to a loan player is one thing I will say. I really want him to come back to Manchester United and fight for that right-hand spot, which is what we're going to talk about. In Sunderland, he excels in the games where possession is maintained and dominated. And for me, the most impressive thing is he provides off-the-ball runs. He's press resistant and he's confident on the ball. He's always confident, and he gets back and helps to defend. I'm sure he's been watching Manchester United this season. He's looking at that right-hand spot. Sancho, Alanga, Anthony, Facundo Pellistri, Ahmad Diallo, they all offer something different, and I do feel like he could probably be a creative option for the team and depth in the squad under Erik ten Hag in the game, in the instance of, you know, rotational games or, you know, player injuries or inconsistencies. One thing that I would say is that he's still young. He can still continue to develop. I would not be mad at all if he chose to return pre-season and head out on loan again somewhere else to just develop that extra senior football, that extra consistent football, because at Sunderland he's been performing well, but when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer brought him and said that he had all the raw talents to become a great player, I don't think he was lying. I think this is just a glimpse of what he can do, and I do feel like actually even under Eric Ten Hag, he would perform very well and very great. Obviously, it'll be great to see him back in a Manchester United shirt. I'll continue watching him this season, and I would actually encourage everyone else to watch him for Sunderland and all our loanees, because it's actually really impressive, especially when they come up against each other. QPR versus Sunderland is coming up. It could be Ethan Laird up against Ahmad Diallo if Ethan Laird is fit in a couple of weeks. And I'd encourage everyone, obviously, on top of Manchester United games, to watch these players, because you know, it's really electric, these youngsters, what they're doing, showing core academy graduate attributes that they all have. You can see, you know, things that they've learned through the Manchester Academy and things that they are continuing to develop in their senior time at Manchester United. But outside of scoring, like I said, he has 2 assists, but that doesn't really capture the essence of his ability to link up effectively. His stats show his dribbling attributes and ball retention ranks in the highest. It's the highest out of all his offensive attributes in possession. Whereas, you know, the lesser attributes that he does have is things like defending intensity and disrupting opposition attacks. But he does, however, excel in ball recoveries and intensities. So for what he lacks in those aspects, he does make up for that in ball recoveries and intensities. Last month's loanee of the month, Ahmad Diallo, for a second time running, he's our loanee of the month. This month, he had, I think, he's got 6 goals, 1 assist in about in the last 11 games. Just shows how impactful he has been since the World Cup break. Obviously, Ivory Coast did not go to the World Cup, so neither did he. And for that reason, he's our loanee of the month. I really do hope, you know, he continues to perform at this level and, you know, returns to Manchester United with a chip on his shoulder to get into the first team, similarly to the others, particularly Ethan Laird and Hannibal Mesbah, obviously Alvaro Fernandez and Shola Apay, who's now at Bolton Wanderers. And that's the end of the video. If you guys liked it, please comment, like, subscribe. Make sure you get involved in the chat down below. Who do you want to see more of in the Loan View? Who do you want to see less of in the Loan View? Of course, all feedback is also always welcome. Let us know how you think they're getting on their loan spells, and make sure you guys become official UV members. You can join the members club. You can get your badges, your emojis. You can get all of that and keep rocking with the channel. And until the next episode of the Loan View, I'll see you then.